And twice, is that your and twice, is that your
Good evening, everyone. I want to open this public meeting. I will take a roll call. Alan,
Aye, here.
Pat,
Here.
Ed,
Here.
Mike,
Mike, here.
and I am here. This is a virtual Board of Selectmen and Budget Board meeting. We are using the Zoom conferencing format. The webinar ID is 847-7419-4571. I will now turn it over to the Budget Committee. Is your meeting already open? Budget Board?
No, we opened one and closed it when we elected our officers, so.
Okay, so now you have to
We'll
open your.
again. And do you want me to take roll call as well?
Yes, please.
Okay, Michelle Powell,
Here.
Dan Beard is maybe. Dave Betzis is not here. Grace is not here as well. She couldn't make it tonight. John Dykstra,
Yeah,
We may be using the.
here.
Evelyn, Alan,
Oh, here.
David James,
Here.
Kai Leffler,
You go ahead.
Here.
Dimitri Michaud,
Here.
Steve Turner,
Here.
and Rick Wakeland.
Here.
So we have 9, and I'm here.
So Lori, do you want to get started?
Yes, so tonight you know that we are here for the beginning of our budget discussions. I was hoping that we could take a moment and have a moment of silence for the Ukrainian people who are undergoing a lot of challenges right now. We have our HR coordinator, Yanina Nicholas, who works in the town office, is from the Ukraine. She's became a citizen a couple of years ago. But her entire family is in the Ukraine. And I hope you would join me in a moment of silence as we think about the challenges they're facing. Thank you, everyone. So tonight, I want to introduce the Budget Committee to Denise Brown, our new Finance Director. Denise, if you can pop up on the screen and introduce yourself. Oh, Denise, you're muted.
Two worst ones.
Hello. Hello, everyone. It's nice to put faces with the names.
So Denise started with us back in October of last year, and she was a great help in this budget discussion and preparation tonight. So to first start off with, I want to review the budget schedule. Tracy did email you the budget schedule. As you know, we're meeting every Thursday in March. So tonight we will do the budget overview, and we will begin with a more detailed analysis of some of the departments. So we have those lined up for tonight. Next week, it will be a meeting prior to the Board of Selectmen's meeting, so a shorter budget meeting. And we will finish out the operational budgets that we aren't able to complete tonight. And then on Thursday, March 17th, which is also St. Patrick's Day, we will have another joint meeting. We will do the presentation on all the capital equipment and debt budget, as well as committees and outside agencies and social service requests. And then on the fourth Thursday, it'll be a selectmen's meeting only. And the selectmen will meet to make their final recommendations on the budget. We will then get those budget recommendations out to the budget committee. And they will meet on March 31st to review and make their recommendations. And then April 7th is a joint meeting, if necessary, to see if there are any differences between the two board recommendations and discuss that. And then we will have the selectmen meet in April to sign the warrant and take final vote for warrant articles. Does anybody have any questions on the budget schedule?
Nope.
So we also have some notes on your budget book. I assume everyone has received their budget book.
Yep.
And I'm seeing people nod their head. And so at the bottom of every page in the middle are the budget page numbers, so you can reference them. In the beginning, there is a single pink piece of paper, and that is your table of contents and index. So you can reference either by alphabetical budget category or as the budget is arranged. And so it tells you where to find that. Next, we have the blue paper, and the blue paper is the introduction to the budget. We have the yellow paper, and the yellow is the analysis of expenditures. And next you will have your orange paper, and that is the summary. So it just gives you the summary by department in case you just want to get a quick look at the numbers. Next, you have the purple paper. Purple is all the capital discussion. Then we have the next tab, and green is revenue. So that gives an analysis of all the revenue numbers. And then you have your commitment history tab. Just keep in mind there that the yellow highlighted areas are estimates only for school and county. So for example, so this is under your commitment tab, the analysis of what the tax rate potentially could be and is estimated at. Currently, the education budget is estimated or the recommended superintendent's budget is about a 2% increase, but the school finance committee is going through that, and sometimes there's money added to the budget in that process. Also, the allocation of the school budget is very heavily based on valuation. So depending on what the valuation of the three towns are, it can shift the allocation greatly. So we don't have those numbers yet, but hopefully in the next month, we would gain a better understanding of that. Then under each category, the white sheets, you have the description. Under each account line item, you have what was budgeted for 2021, fiscal year 2021, what we actually spent in 2021, and then the budget for 2022, and then the year-to-date number. So year-to-date was based on the date that the report was printed. So you'll see up in the corner of the top of the paper, it'll have February 23rd. So that was all the expenditures on the books as of February 23rd. So that includes 1/2 of the month's expenses as well as 3 payrolls. So it equates to about 63% of expenditure throughout the year. At the end of each department, you will see a graph kind of showing how the category breakdown of each department is. And I call that the Dan Beard chart, since Dan was the one who originally asked for that. And then we have at the end of your budget book, you have the social service requests. So as you know, each year we get a variety of social service requests. Some years ago, we established a social service subcommittee made up of the budget committee. They review those requests and they make a recommendation. So the manager request in the budget is what was recommended by that subcommittee. And then there's the backup material for each of those. So is there any question on the organization of the budget document?
Very complete.
Yep.
Okay. So first, I just want to start by thanking my staff for their assistance with the budget that's before you tonight. I am very proud of the work we accomplished together, but it is important to recognize that I do not do this alone. The department directors, my finance director, Denise Brown, and my assistant, Tracy O'Rourke, have worked tirelessly as a team to meet our goals. And I couldn't have done this without them. So by working as a team and making decisions at the department and manager level, we were able to present a responsible budget that sustains town assets in the long term without overtaxing the citizens in the present. So tonight we will review the operational budget with departments and give more details on the information. So I would like to start with giving you an overview of the FY23 budget. And I did just email all of you this PowerPoint in case you want to view it in more detail, but I'm going to share my screen now. And I have a few million things going on here on the top of my screen. All right, can everyone see the budget presentation?
Yes. It's thinking on mine, but I'm sure it's going to come.
I've got it.
There you go.
There you go. That's
All right, is everyone can see it now?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
So to start with, I just would like to take a minute to review Kennebunkport and I'm sorry, I've got two things going on here, but so as you know, we have a year-round population of around 3,600. And when you look at us, we look like a small town. People consider us a small town, but Kennebunkport actually has some complex services. Mm-hmm. We are a seasonal population of exceeding $12,000. Southern Maine Planning and Development Commission a few years ago did some analysis of our seasonal population and through several factors determined that this was the impact of our seasonal growth. Kennebunkport is a part of RSU 21. There is approximately 2,500 students in RSU 21. As you can see at Consolidated School, this year we have 161 students, which is actually very good. That's growth that we have seen. Overall, we have 317 students, and that is a small percentage in comparison to the 42% that we pay towards the actual school budget. Kennebunkport's valuation. So in your commitments sheet, you will see that we're about $2.069 billion. Currently, that's 72% of the state valuation. Our state valuation number is estimated at $2.8 billion. So we'll have a conversation about that as we have a sales market analysis going on right now to bring our valuation back up to 100%. We will not have those state valuation numbers for this budget as we complete it, but it will be available for when property tax bills are committed. We have about 3,800 parcels, but you can see the large majority of those are residential in nature. There's a chart that just breaks down, and you can see that valuation-wise, not parcel-wise, but valuation-wise, we are very heavily residentially based. We also have a wide degree of infrastructure. We run a wastewater treatment plant and have 2,700 sewer units and about 20 miles of sewer pipe. That's an important thing to understand about Kennebunkport because there are a few towns in Maine that also run their own sewer department. Most have a sanitary district. either for that community itself or for a group of communities. So what that means is that when we need to make investment in the sewer system, it is through a general obligation bond or through user fees. And so if you were a district, you would use a revenue bond, but that bonding and that need for infrastructure comes from the taxpayers as well as the users here in Kennebunkport. We also maintain 48 miles of roads and 6.4 miles of sidewalks. So a sizable amount of infrastructure. We also are fortunate to have many public spaces that we maintain. Some of them may be more well known to you, like Goose Rocks Beach and Colony Beach and Parsons Field. Some of them are smaller parks or monuments, cemeteries, and our newest addition, which is the Village Parcel, as well as our kayak launch and disc golf course and McCabe Field. So you would be surprised at how many of those spaces that our staff are maintaining. We also have quite a few structures. So we have a dozen different structures in town, ranging from Town Hall to our Cape Porpoise Pier. All of them are in different states of condition. Some are more new than others, but they are all responsible. We are responsible for maintaining each and every one of them. So if you look at our population, it appears that we have not grown much over the last decade. It seems fairly stagnant. But what we're seeing and feeling in an internal level is that Kennebunkport is growing. And here is just some statistics to help you understand that. So wastewater flow is a great way for us to analyze what is the growth in the community. And you can see over the last 10 years, we've seen a 22% growth there. Even in our voters, we have seen growth. And homes are measured through our growth permits. And so those are new single family homes and units that we have permitted and allowed to grow in the community. But our population looks fairly stagnant. So to keep you up to speed, because through the budget, you will see a lot of we're sharing this position. So when you're in a small town, you have to wear multiple hats. I'm not only the town manager, I'm the tax collector. And so we share those positions sometimes amongst a department and use several different titles for that person, or you might even see a person shared between departments. So like, for example, in general government, you see 13.4. And part of that is related to the fact that some of our administrative staff is shared with public works. You'll see in public safety how administration is at 0.8, and that's because the admin assistant for the police department also spends 1 day a week as a dispatcher. And in this manner, we do our best to cover all the needs of the town and look for people with skill sets. You can see the dispatchers are 4.2. Firefighters and officers at 1.8, and our fire chief, I should say, is not a full-time fire chief. We use per diems in health and welfare, and that's why we're at 1.6. Highway and sewer are both part of public works, and so they share people in terms of administration. And so you can see that that's where that mix is. Over the years, we've been hovering at just under 53. In FY22, we brought on our first planner position. Eli Rubin is our new community planner, and that's where you saw that number increase. And this year in FY23, I am requesting funding for a buildings and grounds person that we'll discuss as we move forward through the budget. So just to take you through the organizational chart, because between all of those various 0.4s and 0.2s of people, it's like, so who do we really have and who's doing what? So as town manager, I have an assistant, and we see that the department directors are listed here, from police chief, fire chief, public works, parks and rec, planning, public health, town clerk, etc. Those are all department director positions. If we take a closer look, our police chief has a variety of staff. They oversee both dispatch as well as police services. So we have sergeants, officers, and you can see we also have 3 school resource officer positions. Those school resource officers are located at Kennebunkport Consolidated School, Middle School of the Kennebunks, and Mildred Day School. The school supplies 75% of the funding for those SROs, and the town picks up 25%. He also, the police chief also oversees the pier manager and harbor master of Cape Porpoise Pier. In the fire department, our fire chief has a fire administrator. Those are the full-time staff. But we also have deputy fire chiefs, captains, lieutenants, and 70 volunteer on-call firefighters that make that department work. Public Works is now a combination of both highway as well as wastewater. So Chris Simeone is our director of Public Works. We have an engineer that's overseeing the wastewater operations, and we have taken the deputy Public Works director position and relabeled that to operations manager to oversee the highway and mechanic. And you can see the new buildings and grounds position also located under operations. Parks and Recreation, Stephanie Simpson is our new director of Parks and Recreation. And we have an assistant Parks and Rec director and a program coordinator. Of course, Parks and Rec has many seasonal staff for summer camp, as well as part-time staff throughout the year to run certain programs. Werner is our director of planning and development, and you can see that he oversees both planning, code enforcement, as well as assessing functions, all under planning and codes. Public health, we're very fortunate to have a public health department, and Allison oversees 2 per diem nurses, which gives us great flexibility in that department to maintain connection with the community. Our town clerk is also our tax collector, and we have those are the front counter people you see when you first come to town office. And they're the ones waiting on you for the majority of your needs. Our finance director, Denise Brown, you just met, also oversees accounts payable and payroll. So these are shared positions. Payroll, for example, is shared with our HR coordinator, who also is our public works admin assistant. So there's an example of a position that's shared in multiple ways, but those are 2 functions under finance. If we look at where we are in the budget process, you can see that budget, although we're sitting here tonight in March, it really begins back in November and December, and then in January with the capital improvement plan discussion. And then it ends in June with the town meeting authorization. So there is still more work to be done in March and April. And we go on hiatus in May while we wait for the election. And June we'll have the final action. So let's get into our budget overview. Here is our FY23 expenses by category. This includes education and county, and you can see that almost half of the budget includes the need for education. So they make up a large majority of the overall budget. If we look at only municipal operations and take out county and education, you'll see that almost half of the budget is personnel, so both wages and benefits. We are a labor-driven organization. The next biggest slice of the pie would be capital. And capital and debt together is really our long-term investment. Our revenues are by the high majority of 82% almost property taxes. So we do count on those non-property tax revenues, and you can see them broken up here. But property taxes in the state of Maine continue to be the main way municipal government is funded. One note in this particular budget is inflation impacts. I'm sure you're seeing that at the grocery store as you shop for butter or milk. But CPI from January of 2021 to January of 2022 increased by 7.5% overall. If you look more closely at what those items were, you can see that they were in a variety of areas, and they were all increases. In particular, fuel oil and gasoline were at 46% increase, and used cars and trucks at 40%. I would say that we have seen these inflationary impacts in our budgeting process as well. To give you a sense, about 48% of our operational and capital increase, or 540,000 alone, was due to inflationary impacts. So that includes, you can see, our health insurance, wages, capital costs, even our chems requests as they experience labor increases, and then equipment repairs and maintenance supplies. All of those have been impacted by cost increases. Our budget drivers in this particular budget include the fuel lines. That includes both heating fuel as well as gas and diesel. Chems has requested an additional 25,000. Our vehicle repairs for public works, the new position for buildings and grounds, our landfill for some monitoring under solid waste, our wages, and capital and debt. That totals about 1.3 million out of the 1.4 million that we have seen as an increase in the budget. So fuel prices. These fuel prices were developed before we even have seen the most recent issues develop. So now one question we have is whether these fuel numbers are going to last us. We do have an additional $10,000 in contingency line to buffer fuel. We did increase that from 5,000 last year, and we had increased them to what we thought was a reasonable number, but most recent events may impact that more. Our emergency medical services are provided by chems, and they have requested an additional 25,000, and that is really due to their need for paramedics and paramedic level of service and the competition in the labor market for those bodies. Our public works vehicle repairs, the budget is showing a $28,000 increase, which puts us at about 60,000 annually in expense. What we found was that when we analyzed the expense per piece of equipment, that it was meeting the industry standard, and that we actually were spending about 60,000 annually, although we were budgeting 35,000. So we have seen parts increases, which is part of it, but also just we have a large and aging fleet. The new position is a buildings and grounds position. So currently we have about 12 structures that we try to maintain. And we have contracted out in the past some minimal amount of cleaning from a local vendor. That local vendor retired in December of this year, and that business has transferred to another. As they have struggled with their own labor issues, we have noticed the quality of service degrade, and it really was a very hole in the dike kind of finger approach to preventing that, rather than really maintaining our buildings in a manner that we think should bring pride, as Kennebunkport has, to its facilities. We also have not had really a proactive approach in terms of simple maintenance like painting or caulking, so we've depended on public works when they are available, or hired work out. And it's something that we've had on the back burner for probably the past 7 years. And so this year we're requesting it in the budget. We are looking to share the position with the Dock Square Parking Lot Enterprise Fund, because we can use custodian services there too. So this was the amount that would be in the general fund. Solid waste landfill monitoring. I don't know if you're all familiar with the term PFAS now, PFAS and PFOS. So these are known as chemicals, and this diagram shows you where you can find these chemicals. They're really in every household item. So with increased awareness of PFAS in the environment, DEP in 2021 started requiring landfills to test for PFAS. In December of 2021, we were informed through our testing that the landfill monitoring wells did contain PFAS. We now need to monitor the wells, the drinking water wells, in the properties abutting the landfill. And they want us to do that on a quarterly basis. If PFAS is found, the state will work with the town to construct and implement filtration systems in these houses, but we still need to monitor the wells. If no PFAS is found, then the entire cost of monitoring is on the town. So the entire cost we estimate for 2023 would be $65,000. If PFAS is found, as I said, the state will absorb some of that, but that's unknown at this time, so we have budgeted the full amount. Wages have increased. As we said, wages are a big part of how we provide services. And you can see Kurt Moses here one day when he got an owl out of somebody's chimney. And so we provide all kinds of services that you wouldn't expect, but we couldn't do what we do without the people. Capital and debt investment, you can see we're doing everything from buildings to radio towers to equipment. And the capital and debt investment is up $955,000. The debt piece is increasing due to the radio tower project. Those of you on the budget committee will remember that we agreed last year to bond $1 million because cost increases were outpacing our ability to reserve funds for the radio tower project. But we are seeing cost increases as well throughout our capital investment. Over the past 5 years, you can see the level of capital that we have had in the budget, and it's ranged from just under 1.5 down to 1.196 in FY21. This year, it's a little over $2 million. And we can see the percentage of the municipal operating budget has decreased in some years, but we're trying to maintain a level that we think puts back the investment we need in our assets. In terms of the FY23 capital projects, we'll go over those in more detail in March 17th. But what you can see here is that it includes vehicles and departments, as well as large infrastructure projects, planning, and preservation of records. Part of how we fund infrastructure as well are municipal bonds. So municipal bonds are loans to fund public projects, and the reason why you might bond instead of just pay out of the operating budget is it really spreads the cost of infrastructure over the life of the investment. And so you wouldn't want to bond something that has a short lifespan. Our debt ratio to value is one way to measure debt. The state allows the accumulation of municipal debt up to 15% of your valuation. So you can see by this that in FY 22, you're looking at our state valuation at 2.8 billion, which would allow us to have a total. Our total debt currently is 21 million. The allowable per state would be 429 million. So we are at 0.77% of our state value. So still very small. One thing, as I said, is that we do run a wastewater department. So I'm going to take that 0.77 and just break it down for you so you can see the difference between the general fund and the general town operations and wastewater. So you can see that a good portion of the debt is about maintaining that wastewater infrastructure.
Yeah.
Another way to measure your financial performance as well as debt is to look at your bond rating. So when the town purchased the village parcel, we went out and did a municipal bond in the open market, and we had to get a rating by both Moody's and Standard & Poor's. This gives you a sense of how municipal bonds are rated, and Kennebunkport scored very well. Moody's getting the AAA is a challenge for a municipality our size, but we scored at the highest level of AA1, which is between AAA and AA. And on Standard & Poor's, we were AAA. So that is an independent analysis of our financial condition. Here is our debt service schedule for FY23. And so you can see that our current debt runs out to 2043. So the 2024 wastewater bond that we just bonded, it was our $2 million wastewater bond, is the last one to mature in 2043. And the one that will retire the soonest is our $1 million wastewater bond that will mature in 2024. So you can see that we have a variety of different bonds, and those are in your budget book as well. If you look at our total operating budget with education and county, you can see that we have a total estimated budget of an increase of 2 million. Again, the education and county are estimates at this time. We will know more, but if we go next to our revenues, we have also increased our non-property tax revenues. We have seen an increase in excise taxes as the economy continues to uptick. And charges for services include both our building payments, which continue to increase, as well as our short-term rental fees, sticker fees. And this year you will see that we also have a capital projects transfer of $700,000. So due to our good financial performance in FY21, we were receiving the audit and the audit analysis in January of 2022 informed the selectmen that there was 1.2 million available to transfer to the capital reserve fund. So that puts that capital reserve fund now at 1.4 million. We also had a ARPA transfer. So ARPA is the American Rescue Aid through the federal government. The town of Kennebunkport will receive $385,000 between between calendar year 21 and calendar year 22. The selectmen reviewed ways in which to use those funds and are suggesting we put those monies into capital. So between the ARPA transfer of $385,000 and the additional $375,000 in capital projects, we really are offsetting the additional dollar request in capital so that they are basically a net zero. This is just to remind everyone how the property tax works. So basically we take our budget, whatever that is, including education and county, we subtract all the possible revenues we have. We divide that by the valuation, And then we establish what the tax rate will be. That tax rate is then multiplied by every individual property value. And that is the property tax that is then sent out in the bill. So our FY23 estimated tax commitment, we have a 1.5% increase in valuation. You can see that our net municipal commitment is 7.4 million. If we include school and county, we're up to 20 million. And so looking at that valuation, we are estimating our mill rate would be 990. That is an estimate only, so depending on how those other numbers play out, we will get the final determination. As I said, we are looking at our sales market analysis, and so that should be complete in time for the tax commitment process. So some people have come into the office and said to our assessor, well, that means you're going to have more money. So we never have more money than what is authorized by the voters. And so here's an example of, I changed the valuation number to our state valuation number. So I'm going to take you back a second. Remember, we're at $2,069,000,000 is what our assessed value is estimated at. If we were just at the state valuation number, which that's the state determining if we were at 100% value, what our valuation would be, you can see how that math changes our mill rate from 990 to 715. So the amount of funding that we have available doesn't change, it changes the tax rate. And we anticipate that will happen with the sales market analysis. So with that, I don't know if anybody has any questions.
A lot of information to digest. Very well done, Lori.
So I did send you all that PDF right before the meeting, just so I know there's a lot of data on that if you want to analyze it or ask additional questions. But I'm just going to stop for a minute there. If everybody is all set, then the next piece of the budget we're going to do is the administration budget. And that is on page 67 in your budget book. And Denise Brown, our finance director, is going to review that administrative budget with you.
Yeah, I'm trying to share my screen and it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
All right, try now. Are you good? Do you want me to do it?
No, can you see it now?
Nope.
Negative.
Oh, gee.
Why don't I do it and you talk us through it?
Luck, huh? Okay.
Can everybody see it?
Yep.
Yes,
All right, Denise, can you see it?
Yeah.
All right, you tell me when to click and I'll click.
Okay, the general government administration budget includes funding for several functions. Page. The town manager, who serves the Board of Selectmen and leads and manages the department directors, as well as her assistant, who frankly manages her and helps her with special projects. Page. The town clerk, who oversees the elections, maintains all town documents and vital statistics, and 2 support staff who assist the citizens with tax payments, registering vehicles and boats, and processing various licenses. Page. This slide shows you the volume of activity that goes on at the front counter. You can see that there are almost 4,000 vehicles registered, 7,400 tax-related transactions, 3,300 beach parking stickers sold, and 3,242 registered voters. Page. General government also includes the finance director, who oversees all the financial activities, provides financial guidance to the town manager, board of selectmen, and department directors, as well as the deputy treasurer, who processes sewer bills, monitors the accounts receivables, and pays all of the town's vendors. Page. Also included is the human resource coordinator, who manages the recruitment of new employees, processes payroll, and administers the fringe benefits. I'd like to draw your attention to the middle of this slide. Benefits account for 20% of the general fund operating budget. Most importantly, providing valuable and affordable benefits is key to attracting and keeping great employees. The town of Kennebunkport understands and recognizes this fact. The town offers Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is administered by the Maine Municipal Employees Health Trust. The town pays 85% and the employee pays 15%. There is a 50-50 split for employees electing dental insurance and a monetary benefit for opting out of the health insurance. Partnering with the Health Trust also provides an employee assistance program for the employees and their family members, which not only offers support for dealing with traumatic events, it also offers many great resources to deal with everyday problems and questions. We saw a 2% increase in premiums starting in 2022 and have budgeted a cautious 10% increase for the second half of the FY23 year. Page. The town offers 2 retirement plans. MSRS, once called the Maine State Retirement System, and is now called MEPERS, which stands for Maine Public Employees Retirement System, and ICMA, International City Managers Association, now called Mission Square Retirement. You will see these 2 acronyms in each departmental budget in their wages and benefits sections. If the employee chooses to join Maine PERS, the city contributes 14.7% into a police officer's retirement and 10.2% into all other employees' retirement. The town matches 3% in an ICMA retirement account for the department directors and 2% for all other employees. Any employee choosing not to join Maine PERS can join the ICMA retirement, and the town will match up to 6%. Both of these plans are exclusively for the benefit of public sector employees. Page. Some account structure changes that you will see across all departments throughout all the presentations. Phone and internet. These services were previously in separate accounts. Due to the way technology is received and billed, these 2 lines have been consolidated into one account. This account also includes funding for cell phone reimbursements and GPS service. Previously, some departments budgeted for these services in the expert and professional line. Expert and professional. This account is used for contracted services such as the consultant information technology, or IT services, planning services, and survey work. A change was made in the apportionment of the IT services, which will show in some departments, as well as the movement of the previously mentioned phone and internet costs. Technology and computers. These two accounts have been combined and include expenses for annual software license fees, computer and printer replacement needs, and the server replacement this year. Page. The general government administration budget is up $91,857 or 8.44%. Page. Wages and benefits. Our largest expense of $952,584 is up $70,765. 77% of this department's increase is attributable to wages and benefits. The largest portion of this increase is due to the change in percentages for a shared administrative assistant position with Public Works. The position was previously split 30% highway, 30% wastewater, and 40% administration. Due to the increase in human resource responsibilities, the position is now 15% highway, 15% wastewater, and 70% administration. Other increases are for contractual longevity wage increases, the negotiated 3% cost of living increase, and market rate adjustments. Dues, up $2,500. This account includes dues to various professional associations for 8 employees. 88% of this line pays for our membership with the Maine Municipal Association and accounts for the additional amount this year due to an adjustment in the statewide formula. Travel and training, $24,625, up $6,225. This increase is due to moving $2,100 from the town clerk line, as well as anticipated travel and training for 8 staff. This account also includes funding for employee appreciation, which is up by $2,000 to account for rising prices in recognition gifts and events. Page. Utilities, up $1,575. This account includes electricity, heating, fuel, and water for town hall. Phone and internet costs are also included in this category. The town receives both services from Consolidated Communications, and there is a new contract that includes increased bandwidth for the internet and maintenance of our phone system. Services, our second largest expense of $109,245 is up $15,852. This account includes printing needs such as the annual report, advertising for recruitment of employees, and the cost of the annual audit. The largest cost within this category is the $50,000 budgeted for the town's consultant information technology services. Technology needs make up the largest amount of the increase. $7,000 for the purchase of a new server for town hall. The current machine is at the end of its life cycle. $4,900 is an added cost for the replacement of 2 laptops and 2 desktops as part of our cyclical replacement plan. And there are new fees to update the town's codes or digital ordinances of $2,000. Page. Supplies and equipment, $44,540, up $3,940. This account funds office supplies, including letterhead, tax bill forms, and the commitment book. Also included in this account is postage and the photocopier lease and maintenance costs, as well as the ballot machine printing and coding costs. Repairs and maintenance. This line item covers paper products, the HVAC and fire alarm service agreements, and janitorial supplies and services for town hall. There is a proposed decrease of $9,000 due to budgeting for a buildings and maintenance person in the Public Works Department, which removes 3/4 of the cost for contracted janitorial services. Miscellaneous, no change. This account funds the cost of election supplies and the advertising for the elections. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Denise, I have a question. This is Steve Turner. I don't remember, Lori, if when you went through the flow charts, if there's full-time technology staff, seeing that there's a lot of technology line items and a lot of technology changes. I'm wondering if there's been any analysis to say, does it make sense to bring it in-house and hire a full-time technology person?
So we have discussed that. And right now we have contracted IT services. Part of the reason that we have maintained contracted IT services is because we have a wide variety of software needs from, the police department to finance. And we have a whole host of different issues between departments. And part of my concern with an IT individual is all of that is laden with one person, and not everybody can. To me, it's like hiring a law firm where you hire one lawyer, they're good at some things and not at others. And through a contracted service, we get a wider variety of skill sets to choose from depending on the project. But there are times we have discussed whether, it's time to bring somebody in-house. It certainly could use somebody more than the time we have, but this seems to be working for us for the time being.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
A question along those same lines. Has there any thought been given to perhaps contracting the maintenance services for all the facilities that we have, rather than hiring one person to do, which could be a lot of particular work?
Right. Our thought process was that we looked at the number of hours, and Denise actually did some of this analysis for the departments in terms of custodial work, how many hours in each department we would really need. And because right now departments have very little, if any, custodial services, this seems like we thought that they would probably have about 30 hours a week in custodial services and 10 hours a week in maintenance, and connected with Public Works, using that as a resource and in similar role to what they have now, that we thought it would certainly be something that would improve the situation. Denise, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Sorry. No, I don't. We also had to consider the Dock Square restroom facilities when we talked about this.
For Dock Square restrooms, we'll still need to contract some because we do need 7 days a week coverage there. And so it will still require some contracted services there as well.
And I'm sure that some of the responsibilities will change between winter and summer.
Right. During the summer with Dock Square, that takes up more time, and during the winter, we're thinking, shoveling and snow maintenance and things like that. Even things like when we get a big snowstorm right now, having somebody to help shovel the roofs off. I mean, that's work we have to have hired out right now. or the police chief and deputy chief get up there and shovel the roof.
Oh,
Yeah.
And so it's really at that level where our department directors are doing the cleaning of the bathrooms. And I just don't think it makes a whole lot of sense to spend money at that level for that kind of work. Any other questions on the administrative budget? If not, Werner, do you want to do on page 75, we have the zoning board of appeals budget.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Warner.
Hello. I'm Warner Gilliam. I'm the Director of Planning and Development for the town, and I'm going to go over with you. These are two relatively small budgets that serve two of our committees. So the first one is for the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is on page 75. The total budget amount there is $1,025. This budget line covers some educational funds for the ZBA, as well as some staff support for minutes and postage. And that's the postage is a pass-through number there for any any applications that come through the ZBA. Does anyone have any questions for Zoning Board of Appeals?
None.
Okay. The next category is for the Growth Planning Committee, and this is on page 79 of your budget book. And the budget request for the Growth Planning Committee, this is a standard budget request that we have each year of $2,500. This is for possible expert and professional service that the Growth Planning Committee may wind up needing as they work through the process of the comprehensive plan as it relates to the implementation of that. This also could cover any additional mailings or PR or things of that nature that the board may do related to the town's comprehensive plan. Does anyone have any questions for Growth Planning Committee?
None.
So, and whenever I'll have an opportunity to chat with you all here in a little bit for the department budget, and I'll be able to give you all a little bit more information of the work that the Growth Planning Committee has been doing. So, thank you.
Thank you, Werner. Next on page 81, we have the legal budget. So the legal budget covers, we try to categorize it from ordinance development and compliance and enforcement and appeals to personnel and special projects. So it's a wide variety of categories. You can see that most years we're either above or below our estimates because they're just estimates only. In FY21, that was the year of COVID. And that was the year I learned that when Armageddon comes, you need your IT consultant and lawyer to go into the bomb shelter with. And we spent $90,000 almost on legal fees in FY21. Wow. Fortunately, through the other accounts, we were able to make up that difference. FY22, you can see that we are at $44,000 expended so far, almost 45. But it covers everything from if the planning board needs assistance, if the town is sued and is in litigation, to dealing with labor issues. And Werner is the main majority of, I always say, our legal budget and in zoning and enforcement actions as well. So it really covers every legal issue that the town may have. This is our best estimate. We are hoping to maintain our legal fund. Of course, we never know what the next year has in store for us. Does anyone have any questions on the legal budget?
I have a quick question, Lori. Are we expecting any fallout, or are we doing any planning with the RSU 21 school committee issues?
Well, no, because we all get along.
Very good, very good.
So
Family.
currently, the town is defending itself in litigation on the question of whether the town's ordinances allow for the recall of RSU 21 board members. We've hired Tim Murphy, an attorney from Saco, and he has represented us at 2 different hearings in front of the Superior Court. We are hoping to get some decision on that before the end of March, as Kennebunk has their recall vote on March 29th. So I'm hoping that is all settled before the new year. The new fiscal year, not the new calendar year. Any other questions on legal? If we go to page 83, that is insurance, and I'm going to let Denise cover insurances.
Okay, RHSP stands for the Retirement Health Savings Plan, set up for the employees who maintain the maximum sick hours. Once a year, these employees will be brought back to the maximum and, that they can have on the books, and 85% of a maximum, it's a calculation, 85% of a maximum up to 56 hours is multiplied by their rate of pay and put into this retirement health savings plan for them. This year, there's a substantial decrease due to some confusion in past years in the calculations, and we are implementing the approved formula. So you'll see a large decrease on that line. HRA is the health reimbursement account set up for the employees' annual deductibles and co-insurances. 40% was budgeted this year, and this is the percentage that's based on historical usage. The workers' comp premium is determined by an audit based on experience. Our workers' comp experience over the previous 3 years. There's a decrease due to an improved mod rate, or again, our experience rating. Unemployment was decreased this year just due to historical usage. Liability insurance is for our property insurances and is increased due to additional assets. Fleet obviously is for our vehicle insurance. Again, increased for newer vehicles and a more accurate cost share with the enterprise accounts. And public officials insurance is coverage for our selectmen and town officials. Overall, these accounts are down by $17,000 this year.
Good. Any questions on insurance?
No.
So if you go to your next page, page 85, we'll do community development. So community development encapsulates the way in which we communicate with the public. So this meeting right now with Mike and Dave are the salary and wages of the community development. So we have seen an increase in wages as we've needed more assistance from technology in order to host meetings. And that has really played out into more committees as well than it used to. And so that is an increase in salary and wages. It also includes the internet at the fire station, a portion of it as well, for streaming and uploading this to the cable access channel. It also pays for our newsletter that we produce twice a year, as well as our website. And we are looking to update our website in the new fiscal year to keep pace with the dynamic amount of information we have on our website and to make it more user-friendly. And then simple operating supplies related to the television station and video streaming. Does anyone have any questions on community development? I'd just like to give a round of applause for Dave and Mike, who make all the magic happen behind the scenes. They are the unseen heroes of making sure public access works.
Definitely.
So I'm going to bring Werner back for planning and development, which is on page 89.
Okay. I'll go ahead and share a screen here with folks. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here and being a part of this process. It's a privilege for me to be here, with you all to give you a sense of what we do in our department. I'll give you a little recap of our year and also talk to you a little bit about what the future holds for us. So we are code enforcement, planning, and assessing. So we have a full-time staff of 4 dedicated professionals, with my role as being the planning director, where I oversee the codes planning and assessing. I also represent the town regionally and statewide on the board of Southern Maine Planning and Development Commission, as well as also being a board director with the Maine Building Officials and Inspectors Association. Becky Nolette is our certified Maine assessor. Andrew Welch is our code enforcement officer, building inspector. Greg Reed works with us part-time doing building inspections. Eli Rubin is our new community planner. April Fortier is our administrative assistant. So we have a couple of new faces this year in our office. As I mentioned, both April and Eli. So April joins us as our admin assistant. She's been doing an incredible job here with our department, keeping us scheduled and organized, and she's a great part of our office. She lives here locally in town, and she brings an extensive paralegal background with her. Eli Rubin, he joins us as our community planner, and I'll talk a little bit more about him and what he is doing for us later on. So planning and development, these are a number of items that we deal with on a regular basis. I provide staff support to the planning board, the growth planning committee. Last year, those of you that participated and heard about it, we did our COVID business allowances to help businesses, get through the challenges of the pandemic. I also offer development assistance with the Kennebunkport Heritage Housing Trust. We do ordinance review, with things like our short-term rental ordinance, residential mixed use. Recently here, I've also spent some time doing some legislative tracking. There's been a lot of activity in Augusta, especially as it relates to items surrounding housing and land use. And I keep track of those items diligently to see how that may affect us here at the town. A big piece of what we do is that we support each other as staff. We run into from time to time difficult situations, whether at dealing with neighbor conflicts or permitting issues. And it's important to know we work together and work through those items as a team. I, in particular, get involved with the review of non-compliance situations that sometimes, could involve a lengthy legal process. Also, we review development proposals. This can be everything from, simple lot splits to extensive subdivision reviews. And also, was involved with the Southern Maine Planning and Development Solar Collaborative, and we also work closely with other departments doing things like the Kennebunk and Goose Rocks Beach water quality projects. This in addition to any other items that Lori has that shows up on our plate. So code enforcement, this is Andrew Welch and Greg Reed. And so again, they also are reviewing development proposals, as well as really being an asset for builders and property owners in town with their project submission. Plan reviews for building projects continue to get more and more complex, especially with increased energy efficiency requirements. It's good for you all to know that staff here individually hold at least 10 different certifications, that require constant updating and continuing education in order to stay up to date on current efficiency and building techniques. They perform site and building inspections. The typical project receives anywhere between 8 to 10 inspections on it, everything ranging from footing and foundation all the way to final and subsurface waste. New for this year were the short-term rental application reviews that were done. I will tell you that was a monumental task that staff really jumped into well, and really they were shining examples to see. Primarily Eli and Andrew worked through those applications. I will tell you there was over 400 applications that they worked through, reviewing and responding to folks that had questions with those. We also spend a fair amount of time with just property owners, guiding them and informing the curious as to wondering what's going on next door, and assisting potential new owners who are doing their due diligence. And of course, we also are responsive to and investigate any complaints that come through our department. Becky Nolette is her role as property assessor. Becky maintains an extensive database of property information through our Vision software, and she does an incredible job managing all of that. This system has very detailed information on buildings in town, as well as information on land, acreage, site improvements, things of that nature. So important to know, all of this data in some form or another is also able to be used through either our online mapping software. So this is our GIS maps, or our own GIS software that we use as staff. Becky also reviews all sales and property transfers that come through the town, deed parcel edits, and 911 addressing updates. She also has been working diligently with Vision appraisal on the market analysis and valuation update. This was something that was started pre-COVID and then was paused. Every 10 years, municipalities are required by the state to review their valuation. Our last major update was in 2009, and so we were due to do an update on our valuation. As Lori has mentioned our current ratio at 72%. So our ratio has been slipping. It started at 91. We had set the ratio at 91 in 2009, and again, it slipped at 72. And this is typical in communities, just as property values increase and as building costs increase. So performing this adjustment will prevent us from having to perform a full revaluation, such as what was needed in 2009. This also will give property owners the full benefit of their homestead exemptions, which currently now, due to our falling ratio, they do not currently receive that full benefit. And Becky also, in her duties, assists with the clerk's office. And so you have likely maybe seen her at election time assisting the clerks there. So community planning. So Eli Rubin joins us as the community planner. So Eli joined us late last year. He came to us from the town of Bodenham and has just finished his graduate degree at USM. So Eli, he really jumped right in with a lot of the details dealing with the implementation of the short-term rental regs. This included extensive work with our online partner, Host Compliance, and answered many, many questions that folks had related to the application process and the ordinance itself. He also joins me with working with the Growth Planning Committee as we're working on our updates to the comprehensive plan. He heads up and organizes our planning efforts related to resilience and climate change. And this includes having an active working relationship with our resiliency coordinator at Southern Maine Planning and Development. He's active with the Maine Association of Planners, and as he grows in his role with us, he will be taking on some of our GIS work as well. So I like to show you all this every year here. This is our numbers, project costs, permit issued, and gives you a sense of some values that we've seen. So construction, despite COVID and rising material costs, has been very active. We issued a total of 656 permits versus 580 permits in the previous year. Project costs overall were almost 60 million in reported total construction value. So these are just the projects that come through our office that require a permit. Yeah, I suspect that general maintenance and things of that nature that don't require a permit, that construction value in town was much higher than that. So you can see that our office is active year-round. So this slide here shows you our activity throughout the calendar year of 2021. So last year, we performed 888 field inspections. Staff attended 190 different board meetings, and we had over 600 office appointments. And so this also would include Zoom appointments that we did with folks as well. So as you can see, there's always something going on. A couple of updates on some ongoing topics. Our FEMA flood mapping appeal is, I feel like I say this every year, is drawing to a close, but I mean it this time. The technical issues regarding the floodplain mapping have been resolved, and we expect an anticipated July 2023 implementation date of those maps. Adoption of those maps is critical and required in order for us to remain in good standing with FEMA, which manages mandatory flood insurance requirements. So many projects, particularly at Goose Rocks Beach, will require additional review and permitting when those maps become effective. So our comprehensive plan update, growth planning, continues to work with staff and our consultant team on the implementation strategies of the comp plan. If you have an opportunity to go to the town's website, there's a separate tab that takes you to the comprehensive plan's website. I encourage all of you to go check it out. It's a wonderful site and has a lot of really good information. We are currently working on strategies that will help guide policy directions for the next 10 years. The plan is for the voters to see this in November of 2022. As I mentioned, the market analysis that's ongoing now is almost complete. We expect to have those values in place for the upcoming tax year. The short-term rental ordinance has been implemented, and this will be our first year with it up and running. So I remind folks this is our first year, and this is a new venture for us. And I do expect that once we have a few years under our belt, we'll have our process a bit refined. But I'd like to thank everybody who has worked diligently and patiently with us as we implement this new ordinance. And then lastly, we continue work on climate adaptation and resilience as a coastal community. I think we're well aware of the changes that we're seeing along our coastline. And we're working diligently with different departments on figuring out what Kennebunkport needs to do in order to adapt to these challenges. So I'm happy to go over some notable numbers in the budget with you all. So our largest numbers, yes.
I just had a quick question on the short-term rental. How many licenses were issued?
I believe we're at 390 is what the final count was. So we had upwards of 400 applications. Not all properties were eligible, but it was pretty close between the two, between applications that came in and licenses issued.
Is there somewhere where citizen can go and look at the list of those licenses issued, like by location?
That's a great question. We don't have that as something that is a publicly available list, but that is something that we can discuss and we can make available for folks.
That would be great, because that was my question too.
Yep.
I think we need to know if our neighbor is renting legally or illegally or not at all or whatever.
We could put together a simple spreadsheet with by location and make that available.
Yes. Yep, we can do that.
I was just looking on couple of these sites that do rentals like the Vacasa VRBO, because I'm a renter in other places, but anyway, I was looking locally here, and what I noticed is that there are several properties, well, there are hundreds, right? But there are properties that some list their license number and others don't. So I was just wondering if it was something that you want to know about. Obviously, the town wants to know if people are renting without a license, and those that have a license should be complying with the requirement to utilize and put their license number in on every type of promotion, advertising, et cetera, like it states in the policy.
Yes, and one of the nice things about having the software system that it really enables us to have a much better direct connection with property owners that have obtained a license. As I said, I suspect we'll have some bumps along the way as we implement this. I will say that's one of the things that I did notice is that not everybody, some listings have their numbers posted and some don't, and we'll be working with property owners to make sure that they pick up on all those details as required in the ordinance.
Does anybody have any questions on Werner's budget before we move on to police?
I have a question. The market analysis that's being done, is Becky doing that herself?
No.
Is she working with Vision?
Yes.
And are they coming out to everybody's house?
No. Well, so the market, the market analysis, what's been done there is that they do essentially a drive-by of all properties. So it's not like the 2009 that was comprehensive of every property in town.
Mm-hmm.
So they do a quick analysis of all properties. So a drive-by, essentially, inspection of those. And then they do a detailed look at the last few years of sales that have occurred, as well as a sampling of our new construction. And so what you'll primarily see is there'll be adjustments in the replacement costs. Our construction tables, I think, is one of the big sections that is lacking in terms of an update. Those values are based off of 2009 construction costs. But then the overall work that's done, is what I would refer to more of as a mini reval, and just just looking at the past few years of sales, not for the entire town.
And do you hope to get that implemented for this next tax season?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions for Werner?
Yeah, I have one question, and probably one impossible to answer, but is there any attempt in doing the revals to estimate the effect of what's going on with climate change? Those properties that are in areas that likely to be flooded in the next 5, 10, 15 years?
I mean, Werner can answer, but certainly the reval and sales market analysis looks at actual market data. And to date, we have not seen a change in market data based on that. But it is something we continue to be aware of.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, David, right now, I mean, we're not seeing a decrease in sales costs or values for properties that are essentially waterfront properties.
Okay. I know, difficult question.
Any other questions for Werner? Okay, thank you, Werner.
Okay, thank you.
So next we have your police budget, which is on page 95, which is under the public safety tab. And so police and communications is going to be covered by Chief Sanford. Chief, you want to say hi?
Good evening, everyone. How are you?
Hey, Craig.
Hey, Jude.
Hi.
Who's tired yet? So I did a little something different this year.
Before you do that, Dan Beard would want me to ask you about our crime rate.
And I've got it ready. So with all due respect to Mr. Beard, I didn't want to do death by PowerPoint, so I did a little video, and you're going to go on a ride in a police car. Go ahead, town manager.
Oh, boy.
All right, can everybody see this?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I forgot to hit a share sound, so then you wouldn't hear him. So now we're going to do it.
I hate to hear myself anyway.
Technology.
Oh, it's giving me a hard time.
Chief, you look really mean there.
I'm looking for you.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm going to try it one more time.
And I'm going to have to wing it.
Oh man, I had this up earlier and we were doing great. All right, it's bringing it up. I don't know why it's giving me a hard time. Let me shut down a couple things here, Chief. Well, why don't you talk a little bit about your budget while I try to restore the...
This is sad because I don't really do well in movies anyway. So I hope you're going to be all right. So my budget, there's not a lot of big changes in my budget. There's a few decreases in the line items that you can see. I'm definitely personnel and benefits driven. My budget just on the police side is about 95% personnel and benefits. So to keep the pencils and the bullets and the weapons and everything else, there's not a lot of change there. We have 14 full-time folks. Like the town manager said before, three of those folks are in the schools where their salaries are paid 75% by the budget, by the school district. I have 4 full-time dispatchers and my assistant that basically keeps the wheels on the wagon and keeps us all moving forward. Some days you could call her the chief because she's my chief. She keeps me running. She's my work wife, and she really tells me where things need to be. So she keeps us squared away. But she's also a dispatcher too. In the video that I had.
Good evening, Kennebunkport.
Oh,
Hey, I got it. I tried a different measure. So,
I hate to hear myself. Now I know what my wife goes through. Good evening, Kennebunkport, Select Board, and Budget Board. I'm trying to do something a little different today. Instead of killing you with death by PowerPoint, we're doing a little video. I'm out patrolling the lovely streets of Kennebunkport as we speak. So for you folks that need a review or are brand new to the budget process, the Kennebunkport Police Department is a full-time police department staffed by 14 law enforcement professionals. It starts with myself and the deputy chief. We then have a detective. We also have 3 SROs that are stationed in Consolidated School, Mildred Day School, and the middle school over in Kennebunk. Those 3 officers are in the schools full-time, and in the summer they come back to the patrol function and they supplement us during our busy season in the summer. Their salary is paid 75% by the school district and picked up 25% by the taxpayers of Kennebunkport. The remainder of the staff are assigned to patrol. And, everybody on the budget board is usually pretty good with numbers. As you can see that, the leftover folks, it doesn't give us the ability to put people on, more than 2 people on 24/7, 365 days a year, which we try to supplement with overtime. We also have 4 full-time communication specialists, as well as my assistant who supplements in dispatch, and she takes care of all of us. She is like the mother hen of all the officers and keeps us in line and takes care of us. She does a really good job at making sure things are where they need to be. In the budget, you'll see that there are increases that are required contractually that we have almost every year for staffing. I can tell you that, it's important to recognize staff. Every law enforcement agency in the country right now is having a hard time maintaining as well as recruiting new officers. We've done just about everything we can. We're offering signing bonuses and things of that nature to try to entice people to come here. It's a great community to work, but again, there's not a lot of new folks that want to get into the law enforcement profession right now because, there's a multitude of things. There's the social unrest that's been happening for a few years that, it's kind of made it tough on all of us as well as new staff. But the pandemic has taken its toll on folks, and I think it's challenging on all fronts. And I don't have any easy answers. We're doing the best we can, but I don't believe in just hiring somebody to have a warm body. We got to have good folks here, and to do that, we've got to have good support and good benefits. And I hope that continues. Other parts of the budget, the finance director has moved some things around, so I don't have a lot of increases in my individual line items for the regular, operating budget as far as keeping the lights on and pens and pencils kind of thing. Again, it's important that that we maintain a certain level of staffing here at the Kennebunkport Police Department, because we're only getting busier. The town continues to grow, and we definitely struggle during the summer months to stay on top of everything and to pay attention to those areas that folks have concern for, such as speeding and parking, and our continued growth in traffic. I get a lot of complaints a lot of times about why I can't fix the traffic in Dock Square. Well, I gotta tell you folks, that's way above me. I don't see an easy fix on that one, and it's definitely not something that the police department's going to easily fix. The police department provides a 24-hour service. We, our calls range from the funniest of calls. I've had to pull a bat out of somebody's laundry to the worst of calls. When not so long ago I had to make notice to a father that his young son had lost his life, and I got to tell you, that's one of the toughest parts of our job. So we do it all. Again, from Mr. Beard, our crime has actually dropped off for the last couple of years. I guess we could find one good thing out of the pandemic is that our numbers have dropped off as far as that goes, just because we just haven't had the volume of visitors. A lot of our crimes happen in the summer because that's where we have our influx, and that's where people are on vacation, letting loose, and can kind of make some poor decisions. Again, our numbers have dropped off, but our solvability rate and all major crimes have stayed consistent. We haven't had a particular area of increase. Our traffic accidents have dropped off a little bit. We stay right around 70, 75 every year. We don't have a particular area in town that's a problem. I always look at accidents and statistics and try to see if there's an area that can be addressed. We don't have any of those. I know a lot of you folks will call and complain, about something that you perceive in your neighborhood, and we always look at those and take action. I can tell you that the Kennebunkport Police Department goes above and beyond when it comes to issues like I'll use speeding, for instance. Where I came from, you would get probably 10 of those a day. But here, what we actually do is, in most cases, we'll send an officer out to speak with you individually if you wish, and then we will speak to area neighbors just to see if they are perceiving the same issue. And then we speak to the supervisory staff and we formulate a plan. We have technology that allows us to put a little black box out that actually monitors traffic, and that gives us true data that is not skewed by perception or other things. It gives us true data. It counts traffic, it gives us speeds, and it actually gives us information that allows us to adjust if we wanted to go out and enforce in a particular area. It gives us prime times, and I got to tell you, that the court systems are struggling, as a lot of places are, and I flat out have had judges tell us, don't crowd my court system with speeding tickets, that is 10 miles an hour and under the speed limit. So you can see that it kind of puts us in a tough position. Not everybody deserves a ticket, but there are certain situations where a ticket is warranted. We do the best we can, and we use common sense and judgment. I don't think Kennebunkport wants to be known as the ticket capital of the world. We do take enforcement. Our traffic stops were up over the last year. I think we had like 300 more stops than we had the year before, so we're doing a good job there. And and our traffic, actually our parking tickets were down last year, just about 300. And ultimately it comes right down to we didn't have the volume down at Goose Rocks Beach, and we didn't have a lot of our Canadian visitors from the north because the border was closed. So I attribute that. We did start our new parking enforcement digitally last year, and that seemed to work out well with the folks that were writing those tickets. So we're trying to mesh the two systems. The old version of what I use is an old parking ticket, and then the new kids, they use a cell phone technology and the computer system and the web-based system that we use that handles a lot of that and actually helps us out as far as the administrative part goes for sending out notices of late payment and things of that nature. So I will stop the video now and allow for any questions, and then we'll do a little something different. I'm going to show you a traffic stop and what we look for and what some of the concerns are to help with future complaints. GoPro, stop. Okay.
All right, that's good, Craig.
Any questions? And I got a text while this was going on. It looks like you're going fast. And I'm like, that's the problem. You look like you're going faster than you actually are. I was going the speed limit.
It's what they all say, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, especially when I stop you, Mr. Dykstra.
That's right. That's right.
So any questions, folks, on either police or communications budgets?
Well, first of all, I think that we should go ahead and put your video on Facebook.
Oh, no, please, no. Facebook is bad.
One thing to note as well that the traffic violations, so for speeding, etc., the town gets none of those revenues. They all go directly to the state.
Same with parking tickets, right?
Parking tickets we do keep local.
We do keep, all right.
I don't get it though.
Yeah, that's what they all say.
So, Chief, are you going to adapt to the new system this year?
Well, that would require additional phones. So we only have a certain amount of phones in our budget, and they go to the new kids, the kids that are walking around the town. So I don't want to bump the budget up any more than it already is. So I'll stick to the old paper one, sir.
I don't blame you.
I have to say that we're very lucky, Chief. You've got a good department going, and you're a good leader, and it shows in our town. So we thank you.
It's my people, and we just got. I appreciate that, and we just gave a conditional offer today, so we're going to be up to full staff hopefully in another couple of weeks.
Wonderful.
Oh, excellent.
So thanks for your support, folks. People want to come here.
The only comment I will say about speeding is if you kept an officer on River Road in front of my house, like is there oftentimes, you could write tickets 24 hours a day.
Agreed, sir. That's about probably every street in America. There's always some knucklehead that's going too fast. So.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Chief Sanford.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
So we are going to move to the fire department on page 109, and Chief Everett is with us.
Here I am. Now, I don't have a very original bone in my body, so I am doing death by PowerPoint. What Chief Sanford did, that was really, really good, very original. But yeah, I guess I'm old school tonight. So my budget really is, it's not up by a lot. I believe it was just over 4% total. And it really, that kind of thing, I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button, sharing my screen earlier than I thought. So it's really just the things that are, because everything's so much more expensive. It's really pretty much all it is. I added some money in my truck maintenance and building maintenance accounts and things like that. but it's really not a lot. It's most of it too is, salary and wages for the firefighters and stuff. So.
Do you need any help, Jay?
Well, I seem to, hang on, there it is. I'd lost everybody, so I couldn't get to a share my screen button. Maybe?
Gremlins are out tonight, yeah.
It said the host disabled participant screen sharing is what the message I just got. It comes maybe.
All panels.
Try again. Is that what you said?
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
There you go.
Can you see it now? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. So a lot of the death by PowerPoint is the kind of going over where we're at. One of the good things that's not in my budget is asking for any more people. So that's a plus that we're not going to a per diem staff yet. It's coming in the future, but I really think I'll show you some numbers that are really good that are kind of pushing that off a little bit. Again, as a reminder, we have to follow an OSHA law, which is part of the federal laws of code of regulations. We're 2 in, 2 out law. So I have to have 2 people to go inside a building and 2 people to be their rescuers in any situation that doesn't involve an imminent danger to a human life. I can go in, any one of us that's qualified can go in alone if that situation pops up. But if everyone's out of a burning building, I have to have at least these 4 interior people on the scene before I can start. So this slide here just shows how we've done over the years, going back 3 years. So if you look at under 2021, the 82% we're at, that's really good compared to we were just under 70 last year and 53 before that. Now, some of this I believe is because of COVID and more people were working from home and that may not have been in town during normal, but once we knock on some fake wood, get this all in the rearview mirror and it stays there, we'll have to see where those numbers go. So just as a comparison, and I'm going to zip through these couples because I have another one that balances everything and shows you both of them. But here's where we were quarterly for 2020 on my interior qualified, exterior qualified people, and then how many people I was getting per call. And then last year, here's where it changed. And I have another slide. So we're trending in the right direction. I was getting more people to calls, more interior people to calls, which is very important for staving off the per diem factor. So here's a better comparison of we went up by a person and a half to the calls, but we went up 0.9 people on the interior side, and that's really good. That really helps us. Again, I think some of these numbers are the way they are because of COVID, and we'll have to kind of wait and see as I continue to always have this data available to finally decide on maybe when we're going to have to push the per diem button or something like that. We're an apartment that's for the most part getting older, but this graph shows that we actually went down a little bit in average age. But it's going to go back up because next year there are going to be more I think 3 or 4 members that are going to go into the over 60 category, unfortunately. But that's something, all these things are the things that I keep track of to help me decide on when we need to add per diems to the budget. So this is just, we have over a third of our department is over 60, while only 16% is under 30. I have in the last 2 years brought on 4 people, and they all became interior qualified in the last 2 years. So that's good. A lot of departments like us probably can't say that. This graph just shows our age groups. What the percentages that are in red are last year's, and then the other percentage is this year. And really, when you're looking at it, 41.1% to 39%, we're staying the same. It's pretty much staying flat. Because we're not getting a lot of young people in, but we're getting some. Another thing I always look at is the times of days that our call occurs, because that's going to help us decide if we go per diem, when that is most ready to happen. So again, I have 2 slides that I'm going to kind of zip through. This one shows 2020, and it shows 65% of our calls were between 6 in the morning and 6 at night. And then last year, that was 73% of our calls. And this next one here is a better side-by-side comparison of 2020 to last year, the times a day. Again, the majority is still between 6 to 6, but a higher majority is 6 in the morning till, and a lot of these calls that go into the 6 o'clock at night till midnight are happening, because the people are still awake usually. So about 10 o'clock, there's a pretty good drop off, and you can see after midnight, there's very little, which is always good. Our calls during the day, during the week are pretty steady. Obviously the majority of our calls are during the day, or at least during the week, because that's 5 days compared to the 2 days on the weekend. But you can see that they're really pretty steady, around the same numbers all across. So this number here went up. Fortunate on the 4 people I brought on, that the younger people, they brought it up by 4, but also more importantly brought up that they work around here too. So that helps us, that they're more accessible for us when we need them. And then these others are where other people on our department live, where they and possibly work in these towns. And I didn't have enough room to put an other graph, but unfortunately there are other people that work farther away that may not be able to help us very readily because they're farther away for their job. And that's just an update there, and I'd be happy to take any questions that anybody has.
Looks like you're pretty healthy to me.
Yeah, looking at it all, my Kennebunk High School math, I had to do it all twice because I was really surprised that 82% of the time in 2021 we met that 2 in, 2 out rule on our own. This was before any mutual aid would have been called, because sometimes I may have to do that because I don't have a proper number of people to do that. So that's a really good thing. Hopefully it'll keep trending.
If you had to go to per diem employees, would that raise your cost significantly?
Not, I mean, obviously, yes. I looked at.
Sure, some, but would it be a great deal?
Last year's presentation, I had a slide in there that if we were to add 2 people during the day, during the week, so covering that, maybe it's 6 in the morning till 6 at night, or sometime in there when most of our calls are, would add about $175,000 to my budget, or almost 50% higher than it is right now.
Okay. Well, keep doing what you're doing.
I'm going to try. And like the police chief said, I've got a great crew of people. The volunteers in this town, they truly just want to help their neighbor. And I can put an email out because, hey, I've noticed that this or that was going on, and I'll have 10 people respond to it saying, just let us know when and where, chief, and we'll be there to pitch in for whatever it is. They're a really great bunch.
Yeah.
That's great.
So does anybody have any other questions for Chief Everett?
Good presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Jake.
Yep. Hearing none.
Thank you.
See you later.
So Chief Sanford is back up with emergency management. Chief Sanford's also our emergency management director. And you can find the EMA budget on page 127.
So no video here other than emergency management's been really busy the last couple of years with COVID. I've completed probably 4 projects to try to get reimbursement from the feds on expenses incurred by the town. And I've got another project in the pipeline to get some expenses back. So again, those funds are used, to help us with a joint effort with Arundel and Kennebunkport, Kennebunk in helping us do things collaboratively in times of need. So there's no change there.
So these funds at the end of the fiscal year are put into our emergency management reserve fund. So it's a very small portion, but together they add up so that when we do have an emergency, we'll have some reserve funds available. Does anybody have any questions on EMA?
Nope.
If not, we can flip the page to animal control. This budget basically funds our animal control officer. Chief, do you want to review that?
Yeah, so we share services. We contract out with an ACO that covers a couple of other municipalities, small municipalities. It's worked out great for us. In situations that we do need their services, she's quick to respond and assist us where needed. In most cases, dog bites and basic dog barking dog complaints we can handle, but if an animal needs to be transported to the shelter, the ACO takes care of that in most cases.
Any questions on animal control?
Oh.
Okay, seeing none, we're going to go to the last operational budget for tonight, and that is the Harbor Master budget on page 131. So our Harbor Master budget covers both our shared Harbor Master in the Kennebunk River with the town of Kennebunk, as well as our peer manager Harbor Master in Cape Porpoise. So in Cape Porpoise, Chris Mayo serves in both the role. Remember, I talked about people and the many hats they wear. And so Chris Mayo serves as both the peer manager and the harbor master. So 80% of his salary and benefits is covered in the Cape Porpoise Pier Enterprise Fund. 20% is covered in the harbor master in the general fund. So that's what you're seeing here for Cape Porpoise. We also pay for the River Harbor Master, which is on page 132, and that is managed by the town of Kennebunk. And you're seeing a sizable increase in that account because we did some analysis with the hiring of Jamie Houts as our joint harbor master. And really, we really needed more hours available to oversee the river than we had been budgeting in the past. So we changed the hours to really accommodate the need for the seasonal hours in the summer and really scale back those hours in the winter. But believe it or not, there are still harbor master duties for the river in the winter months. And so that's that cost increase there. And so the entire budget's up about $9,000, but it covers both harbor masters.
What is our share of the total?
Our share of the river one is 50%. It's 50-50.
Okay.
Kennebunk handles all the finance, administration, and employment, and they also handle all the billing for the mooring fees in the river. And so then those funds are put into a reserve account to deal with issues relative to the river. So if the harbor master in the river needs a new boat, for example, it would come out of those reserve funds. Or if we needed a dredging project or something else related to the river, they hold those funds, but they're meant to be expended back in the river. Any questions on the harbor master budget? So that brings to conclusion the budgets we wanted to review with you tonight. I don't know if there's any questions or feedback from the selectmen or budget board, or a wish to see other data or information that we didn't provide you.
I think you did a great job, Lori, and everybody's presentation was wonderful.
Thank you, April. Alan?
Lori, one last question on mooring fees that are paid by the visitors. That you say that is maintained by Kennebunk?
So the moorings in the river, there's only one transient mooring for visitors in Kennebunk River. The rest are held by people who have boats in there for the entire season, and they're either residents or people who have applied for a mooring in the river. And so those are billed, and also the revenues held in a separate reserve account for the two towns. But Kennebunk holds the revenue. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I certainly appreciate all of the professionalism and all of the data and all the hard work that went into this. I've spent a lot of time reviewing the budget so far, and it's very complete and very well explained by everybody.
I agree.
Great.
So with that, if you think of anything else, feel free to email us. Otherwise, we'll plan to see you here next Thursday night on the 10th at 6 to review the rest of the operational budgets. But the budget board is free to adjourn, and the selectmen, I have two other points of business that I am hoping they will attend to tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
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 Good night.
I mean, the budget board's happy to hang out and continue with our meeting, but
I want to hang out to be nosy.
that's fine. You go right ahead. We're just going to transfer power back to our chair, Sheila Matthews-Bull.
Thank you. And what am I doing?
So the first item is we have the appointment of the town clerk. So Tracy O'Rourke will be the town clerk and registrar of voters. And we are looking for you to appoint her this evening, to confirm the appointment of her.
So moved.
Second.
And I will take the roll call. Pat
Yay.
and Mike
Aye.
and Alan
Aye.
and Ed.
Aye.
Aye, and Sheila says aye. So motion is passed.
So the second item is we need to appoint a new agent for Bureau of Motor Vehicles. And staff is recommending that Rose Wills be appointed as the agent for Bureau of Motor Vehicles.
So moved.
Second.
And I'll take the roll. Pat,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Alan,
Aye.
and Ed.
Aye.
And Sheila says aye. Motion is passed.
And that's all we have.
And that,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Hey.
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Great
Good night.
job.
Thank you.
See you soon.